Hello everyone, welcome back to Methodology of Literature. Let us continue our discussion on archetypal criticism. Before that, let us have a quick recap about the last class. In the last class, we discussed about archetypes. We have seen that an archetype is an ancient image, a character, or a pattern of situations that repeats throughout literature and thought, consistently enough to be considered universal. Archetypal criticism originated from two sources. One is social anthropology, two, psychoanalysis. Anthropological origin is from James G. Fraser's book, The Golden Buff. Psychoanalytical root of archetypal criticism is coming from the works of Carl G. Jung, especially from the concept of collective unconscious. That's where we stopped in the last class. Now the lesson continues from the collective unconscious. You can see here the image of Carl G. Jung. What is collective unconscious? You can see two terms here. One is collective and unconscious. You know what is unconscious. Unconscious is the other side of our consciousness. Collective means it is a collection, a reservoir. So let us see the meaning of it. According to Jung, collective unconscious is the innate thoughts, the inner thoughts, feelings, instincts, and memories that reside in the unconscious of all people. He defined myths as the culturally elaborated representations of the contents of the deepest recess of human psyche, the world of archetypes. So, Jung says that collective unconscious means the deeper thoughts, the inner thoughts, the feelings and instincts and memories that reside in the unconscious of all people. So we have something inside our unconscious. Similarly, the elements that are contained in the unconscious of all people are together considered as collective unconscious. And he defined myth as the representations or the contents of something that lies in our inner world, the human psyche. Human psyche is what Jung termed as the world of archetypes. Human psyche is a world of collection of archetypes. It is also connected with the culture. It is elaborated by the culture. By this, as an explanation of the uh, explanation of what we said right now, by this he means that myths, that is, the ancient stories that are handed over to us from previous generations. Myths are contents of our deeper minds, which are expanded by culture from which they are coming. So myths actually means the ancient stories that are handed over to us from previous generations. Myths are contents of our deeper minds, which are expanded by the culture from which they are coming. Jung pointed out that archetypes are universal in nature because they are ancient images emerging from very earlier times of our culture and shared by many generations. So, universal means applicable to any part of the world, wherever it is. For example, some feelings are universal. Love is a universal feeling as far as human beings are concerned. Enmity is a universal feeling as far as human beings are concerned. So, just like that, archetypes are universal in nature. Wherever we are, it is applicable to human life. Now, after the publication of James G. Fraser's book, Golden, writers started including reworkings of myths in literature. T.S. Eliot's Wasteland and James Joyce's Ulysses are examples. So, after the popularity of this book, Golden Buff, writers started deliberately including the reworkings of myths in literature. So, two prominent examples are Wasteland and Ulysses. Jungian analysis. The analysis of Jungian analysis was used to analyze poems and novels on the basis of myths and archetypes. Some of the practitioners of archetypal criticism are Maud Bodkin, Northrop Frye, Robert Graves, Philip Wheelwright, Joseph Campbell, etc. Learn the names of some of these practitioners. This is a very famous book in archetypal criticism, Anatomy of Criticism by Northrop Frye. Among these critics, Northrop Frye is very important. In 1957, he published a book called Anatomy of Criticism. In this book, he ignored the anthropological origin and psychoanalytical origin. And instead, what did he do? He evaluated archetypes from a literary point of view. He abandoned all connections with myths or unconscious. Instead, he connected it with literature, literary point of view, not in connection with myths or unconscious. Northrop Frye considered seasons as an archetypal pattern. He connected seasons with genres of literature. For example, according to him, spring corresponds to comedy, romance corresponds to summer, tragedy corresponds to autumn, and satire corresponds to winter. This is another important book by Joseph Campbell, A Hero with Thousand Faces. In this book, Joseph Campbell presents a chart of archetypes found in literature. You can see this chart in your textbook, page number 50, 51, 52, and 53. Learn the names of some of the archetypes and the corresponding description of archetypes. For example, like this, it will be convenient for you to make a table for your own purpose. Archetype, the quest. Quest is something that the hero is trying to achieve. You might have heard of stories in which heroes are trying to achieve something great. Heroes are searching for something valuable, which he wins in the end. So the quest is an archetype. Task is another archetype, that is a superhuman activity that the hero had to perform in order to achieve the quest. Another archetype is battle between good and evil. It is often seen that hero, that hero is always a symbol of good. Hero will be fighting with an evil power in order to achieve the quest. So that archetype is called battle between good and evil. So there are several character archetypes as well. Hero is an archetype. Hero's friend is an archetype. I have told you in the last class, like Watson to Sherlock Holmes. Mentor is another archetype. Mentor means a wise man who molds the hero. A friendly animal. A monster is an archetype. Scapegoat. Somebody who sacrifices life for another person, that is scapegoat. Outcast is an archetype. Mother Earth, Mother Sea, damsel in distress, meaning sad woman, unfaithful wife, star-crossed lovers, tragic lovers are some of the character archetypes. You are familiar with all these types of characters from various stories you have heard from very early age itself. There are archetypal symbols as well. For example, light and darkness are archetypal symbols. Supernatural events are archetypal symbols. Threshold, gateway is something symbolic when it is used in stories. Fog or mist are something used when the writer is trying to tell something uncertain. Various colors, you know that colors stands for something else. Red is the symbol of sacrifice, green is the symbol of hope, positivism, black is a symbol of mystery, unknown, death, etc. So these are some of the elements that we learn from archetypal criticism. So remember some of the archetypes and their descriptions. Try to remember how um, Jung tried to explain archetypes, which are the sources of archetypal criticism, and some of the important books referred in the chapter. So here we comes to an end to the archetypal criticism, and in the next class we will move on to psychoanalytical criticism. Thank you.